Good evening, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of Beginner Breakdowns. As usual, it's me, KZA, in the driver's seat, and my ever faithful comrade, Seth Series, over there on the left. How are you doing this evening, Seth?
I'm doing good. We've entered a new age of recording technology. I went out this week, bought like a nice headset and a pop filter. Like we're in here now. Like we're real deal.
So, we're working on making every time the audio quality, video quality get a little bit better. We'll get there. All right, so first up tonight, one note that I'm going to go over, due to requests from the community, we're going to try to do more sets rather than just doing individual rounds like we used to. Some people have asked us to do a little more analysis on how people change and adapt or don't over the course of a set, and so we've taken that to heart. We're going to give that a shot this time. We may not get through every set that we're sent. For example, the one you can see there, that's for 15 minutes. We don't really have time to do that and get to everybody else tonight, but we will try to put a little bit more focus on analyzing your behavior over a longer period, because it's true, how you behave over the course of several games matters often a lot more than just what you do in one.
So first match we've got Colin and Ken, correct?
Yep. A lot of Colleen's this time. Kind of a rarer character. In general, I try to pick out some more interesting matchups, stuff you may not see as often. Colleen, interesting character. Still not very common because she's a little tricky to use. And
She's definitely she's definitely got a little bit of a skill barrier to be used right. A lot of her specials are unsafe, and a lot of the stuff that she has to set up to be safe is a little tricky.
And so, in this case, this was submission by the Colleen, bus driver dog, who, as you can see from his title on this video, basically said he is bad, he wants to be better, and he thinks this set is a good showing of where he thinks he isn't doing so good, and he wants to see if we can maybe give him some tips and, fix that. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right, immediate jumps, never a good sign. Ooh, quality lost there for a second.
A little bit. So one thing I definitely see there. Can we go back just a little bit? Like I want to see that first jump in scramble. Although that was a good counter. Go back to the start of the set.
Looks like his recording quality just took a crap on him.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing there, I feel like that could have been a cross up.
Good jab anti-air there, though.
Yeah.
Gonna give him some compliments on that. Good counter as well. Very important thing to use is Colleen. And when people are jumping in on you, use that anti-air counter. I mean, what else are they going to do?
So we're seeing some really basic Colleen setups. Like, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Like, I think bad is probably a poor word for bus driver here. He's or she. We're seeing some stuff. So we saw the counter kind of cross through. Ooh, I'm really impressed with these anti-airs.
Yeah, for the level of play that was described to me, this is a lot better. Bus driver dog, you're probably being a little too hard on yourself.
Definitely, and that's just a mindset thing. So we got the EX Parabellum, which I think might be safe. Either that or this Ken just didn't punish it.
This Ken's missing a lot of punishes. I've seen a couple that's punishable. He's only gotten it that one time.
We're also seeing a lot of YOLO heavy Tatsu.
Right. Okay, throw loop. Bad scene, but X again.
Ooh! There we go. Starting the...
Good use of the overhead. Okay. So, let's pause there for a second.
Yeah, let's talk about kind of like some really good stuff we saw in that, because, there's definitely some jumping scrambles going on here, but bus driver, we're seeing really good anti-airs. We're seeing you use counters to get out of pressure. We're seeing you go, your defense on this is really good, and you're answering you're answering pretty strongly a lot of incredibly just silver tactics. We're seeing, jump ins are getting countered. We're seeing a lot of really good stuff here, and especially at that end, kind of setting up to make Ken crouch block, then come in with that overhead. That was really good.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the silver rank, you're playing very solidly. The only thing I would suggest, like immediately, that sticks out is you're fishing a lot with unsafe moves like raw V skill counter or parabellums. You've got to calm down and just not use those because those are unsafe. This Ken isn't really punishing you for them yet, but the less opportunities you give people to do that, the better off you'll be.
And the other thing is too is like Ken is definitely a punishing monster. Like Ken can hit confirm off any button. So like this Ken's a little rusty, but a better Ken would have not let a lot of this slide.
Also, don't jump at the beginning of the round.
That is, yeah.
This guy isn't sure you can you, but he really should be.
Yes. Or even that, like any of pretty sure Ken has a crouching heavy punch.
See, yeah, again, you get punished there for that fishing. Don't fish with that. You try to get the actual read.
So we're seeing some really good spacing pokes with the kicks. I don't know how I feel about that raw sweep, but it worked, so I'll let it slide here.
Yeah, I mean, you're good counter again. Anti-air counters have been on point, and that's, if anything, I would say that you're almost if you're listening, you're overdoing it on the counters. You don't got to counter everything. Sometimes you want to do something else because if you counter everything, eventually they're going to start baiting them.
Yeah, definitely. That's especially at a higher level, like baiting counters is a really good way to set up damage.
But
so we saw the attempted
good chip out.
Yeah, that was a really good chip out.
So very strong first game for someone who thinks they're bad. Strengths, very good pokes, strong use of anti-airs and counters, strong usage of the V skill when you actually had it on point. The downsides, a lot of unsafe stuff, a lot of jumping, a lot of fishing with unsafe moves that just really wasn't punished enough.
All right. Yeah. So like there, I think part of this, the reason this set went so well, is the skins like leaving a lot of punish damage on the floor. But outside of that, like we're seeing we're seeing good behavior and solid fundamentals here. Just needs a little bit of cleanup.
Yeah. So so far, big tip for you right now is just stick to safe moves. Just maybe even play around where you literally don't use the unsafe specials at all. Like, I know that's going to be difficult and might lose you a couple of games, but try playing without them and just sticking to playing very cautiously and see feel how that feels and realize how you're supposed to use those specials. Like, it's a thing I do with Zangief sometimes. I just play without using SPDs because and it's like, so how do you win?
Fear.
So how do you win? Well, the answer is you can always win by playing intelligently with buttons. You have to train yourself on doing it. One of the best ways to do that is to take away some of your other tools and focus on it so you're not trying to juggle those balls.
So one thing I'll definitely go ahead and recommend in this too, Colin has some really good hit confirm buttons too. One of the things I recommend for newer players who want to get the better hang of hit confirming, go into training mode and set your opponent to random block, and just train yourself to only do so. Like an example, Laura has crouching medium punch into medium bolt tackle, which is unsafe on block. What I do for me is I go in, I set the opponent to block randomly, and I work at it until I'm only hit confirming off, like to where I'm getting it and not getting punished for it.
All right, so let's watch another game here and see how this goes for our hero. Because I get the impression, based on the title of this and his email, that maybe it starts going against him in some of these later rounds.
So we didn't see the jump in at the start. It did come out, but we didn't see it at the start, which is an improvement.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing some good movement options here. That was a good confirm. That was a good jump and confirm. Ooh. So
be very cautious on wake up.
Yeah, Ken's Oki is probably some of the best in the game.
And especially with Colleen, who doesn't have a true EX reversal, though a thing to keep in mind is that her counter is one of the few one-frame moves in the game, so you can in fact use it on wake up to stuff a lot of things if you can get the read on what they're doing.
You just gotta treat it. You gotta treat it like an EXD or like a DP or an EXDP. Know when to throw it out. Don't throw it out all willy-nilly, or else you're gonna get crush countered. So we saw a little bit of a desperation jump in there, although I like the tag on that heavy Tatsu.
Good confirm there.
This is very good confirm, and converting that into good damage on that too.
Like, both these guys are playing very well for silver. This Ken isn't as rago as most Kens tend to be. So he's definitely playing a lot more intelligently than a lot of people tend to expect at this level, to be honest with you.
I'll say he's playing a lot more intelligently than just the last game.
Yeah, already he's, you can see already he's getting more confirms and he's throwing out fewer punishable moves. He's running into fewer counters. He's just generally already adapting, and that's why we wanted to show sets, because in this case, this Ken has slowed his game down. And
I was gonna say, it definitely also looks like the Ken here was watching and waiting for that. Ken here was waiting for the V reverse, or for the V trigger pop overhead, since it got him last time.
Yeah, this Ken has clearly noticed, certain tendencies, certain unsafe things. They're getting punished more, and he's being more aggressive, but he's still good catch there, though.
That was a good catch. That's a good way to shut down his...
Oh, an excellent light confirm. That's something... Keep in practice on that. That'll take you a long way.
Definitely.
Nearing stun. Yeah, so I feel like one thing that definitely could say here, I think, they're both playing fairly cautiously, but it feels like Bus Driver struggles a bit when he's under that Ken pressure, which is one of the reasons I recommended, just slowing down and playing exclusively with the neutral, not trying to fish for that stuff for a while, because it forces you to just defend, because since you don't have any of your get out of jail free cards.
There's definitely that. The other thing is, it definitely looks like Bus Driver is saving the V trigger or the V gauge solely for V trigger pops, when we could get a V reversal and kind of at least get pushed out and reset the neutral. And Colin's a two stock character, so she builds it faster than Ken. It's possible for her to get two in a match.
Yeah, and because of her relatively weak defensive options in a lot of situations, she often needs it to get pressure off her. Though again, one frame counter, if they're doing a predictable string and they haven't got the read on you, you can plop that out in the middle of certain frame traps.
So that's a little bit risky, but I do want to harp on Bus Driver's defense is really good there. But see, there it is. There's that counter that we've been talking about the entire time, and just that was unsafe. Driver got touched for it.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a panic there, I think. That was definitely an accidental jump into the Tatsu, which was definitely not the right decision.
No, that was definitely a scramble situation.
You got to try to keep... Colleen, especially, even more so than most characters, is a character where you cannot lose your head. Because, she's so dependent on well-timed counters and other stuff like that to get out of pressure. If you're panicking, you're already losing with her. You really have to be one step ahead if you can be.
She's definitely a more thought. She requires a lot of thought, and you've got to have a game plan going in.
And Bus Driver starts winning when he gets that game plan going, getting those safe pokes, keeping the counters for predictable stuff. He starts losing in situations like this, where he's backed into a corner and letting the pressure happen. So
yeah, he's definitely retreating, backing off a little bit. We're definitely seeing kind of situations where he should just keep moving forward, keep checking stuff like standing heavy kick and try to mitigate the pressure, but he's just getting backed into the corner and Ken has all of his options in the corner.
Right.
And
So
so
I think that was basically 2-1 in favor of Ken. I think the real lesson there for bus driver, if you are watching this, is that you have a solid foundation. Now it's time to start tightening it up. You've got to get your confirms on point, reduce the number of unsafe things you throw out, and just reduce the tendency to react and try to proact a little more. And that means that sometimes just sitting there and blocking it for a while and just waiting for an opportunity where you can reverse the curse. You can't panic, especially not as Colleen.
but yeah, so takeaways from that.
Slow down, be defensive when you have to be, and be
Quit
safe.
jumping.
Quit jumping. Be safe when you try to reverse the direction. There's nothing more dangerous than trying to reverse momentum unsafely, because then you can run straight into the guy coming the other way.
Absolutely. So I guess let's head to the next one. I think we covered good ground there.
Yep. All right, next up, this is from our friend from the Discord, Bakari Gaijin. It's in another Colleen, but this time it's from the Akuma facing her.
So this is one I'm actually really excited to do. I've seen, having talked to Bakari and having hit and just watching him vent, it's apparent that Bakari is struggling a little bit, and that's what we're here to help with.
Absolutely. In my opinion, this matchup heavily favors Akuma because he's got so many options, which makes it difficult for Colleen to read him. But it does really also come down to the skill of the players.
Yeah, it does come down to, Akuma has tools. It's just whether you know how to use them.
So I want to rewind through that because that was classic.
All right.
So because this is bronze, right? And
yeah,
that was some very, very classic bronze. So I want to talk about this. Beginning, round starts, jumping starts.
Yep.
So for Bakari, Akuma takes to the air a little bit more than some people, but Colleen really shouldn't be. Her air buttons are not that good, and her combos are not particularly damaging.
So we're seeing the anti-air jab, but especially in this situation where, especially in this situation, when the Colleen here is trying to go for these cross-ups and these very close range jabs, stand jab anti-air with Akuma, it's still pretty darn good.
Or, in this case, Shoryukens.
Yeah, Shoryukens would also be really good.
Basically, all of his loss in that round was just getting jumped on over and over.
So, let's go back to the very start, because, there's one thing I definitely want to illustrate here. So, this initial jump in, back heavy punch would have just...
Oh, yeah.
Especially from this art, that's just saying, please back heavy punch and murder me.
Yeah, this is a situation where you should have the read on this every single time. It's another close jump with a cross-up attempt. Every single one of these should be met with a Shoryuken to the face.
And I was gonna say, even if Shoryuken's a little bit difficult, back heavy punch. I was gonna say back heavy punch, standing jab. Akuma is blessed with his anti-airs.
Yeah, so, and the other thing to keep in mind is you have to do that because Colleen is actually a very beefy female character in terms of health, whereas Akuma is very much not.
So we saw the attempted DP there, so he definitely is trying.
Yeah, I think he's just reacting a little too late to a lot of this stuff. He's, this is all stuff he should be able to do something about, but he's not picking correctly in terms of timing. He's doing it just a smidge too late. And so what I would recommend for him really is just to set up the bot to jump at him like that and just keep practicing until every time it does it, he's getting some kind of hit on it.
And the other thing too, especially in this one, these long range jump ins, back heavy punch leads to has combo routes off of it. Back heavy punch, definitely you can convert things off of.
And Akuma gets a lot of damage off stuff like that, and you only have to do that a couple of times with somebody before they probably cut it out.
I guarantee you, had he, like, especially in that first round, if he'd, if he'd gotten that back heavy punch anti-air and then maybe another anti-air to just shut them down, like, this Colin's game plan would have just been shut down.
Okay, decent air to air, and the other thing here is that when you anti-air somebody and they fall in front of you, you are at advantage generally. Like because they're you can't hit them while they're air resetting, but they can't do anything either, and you generally recover first. That's kind of the point. So when they land in front of you like that, do something. Like even if it's just a jab, put something in their face because they probably can't do anything about it. Like a classic thing I do a lot with Geef is do a jab anti-air, and then as they fall, I just roll the SPD, and they fall right into it a lot of the times, just 2 jumps again after getting anti-aired.
I say, my guy, you are not in a place where you need to be teabagging people. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so, like, and the thing about having bad anti-airs is this is very much a thing you can just train in training mode over and over until you get it right. There's nothing that requires you to be in a match to practice your anti-airs. Because at the end of the day, jump arcs don't change. Like,
no.
Unless they're dive kicking, jump arcs don't change. Like,
which Colleen doesn't have a dive kick at all.
She does have the icicle step, but a Shoryuken will still generally catch that because of how high it goes.
Especially if it's one of Akuma's EX or DP or V trigger Shoryukens that just do some stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, there's not really much else to say about those rounds. Like the mistake Bakari made, and the thing he needs to practice is stop people from jumping on you, because I would say 90% of the damage he took all through those rounds was just getting hit by jump-ins.
Yeah, there's, as I say, going out of that, like, just definitely at this point, just, learn to, as a start, learn to AA jab, learn your back, like, go in the training mode and just practice it. Do back heavy punch. And I want to address something that Raytheon said here in the chat. So reacting to anti-airs is hard. It's incredibly hard. So, like, the best thing to do is not even react, but anticipate. You can, for certain characters, you can keep your opponent at a range where, or honestly, you can do it with most of the characters in the cast, but you can get a bit of a life lead and keep your opponent at a range to where it's beneficial for them to jump to get in, and then just light them up. Like, be at a range where you know the jump is likely, and just have that DP cocked and ready to go the moment you see those feet leave the ground. Yes. Like, it's still a reaction, but if it's something you're anticipating or something you expect, it's easier to react.
So here's a good illustration of that. We went over this a little bit last week too, but when they're about this spacing from you, this is the range where people are generally going to try to do a jump. Like, right about where her foot is. That's the range you want to be in, because that's where you can threaten a cross-up and also sometimes catch people off guard. If they're jumping from all the way out here, come on, you should be able to get that, because that's very, very obvious, predictable. It's this range that's dangerous. And so for certain characters, there's a difference of opinion based on characters. Some characters you want to back up and force them back out to that long range where they have to be predictable again. Other characters you want to close the distance, get up tight, and prevent them from jumping by sticking your foot in their metaphorical face. But you generally don't want to lurk right here unless you are planning on doing something.
Especially, like, let them jump and let the, anti-air and push them back, because they'll keep jumping, like, especially at this rank, they'll keep jumping at you, even if you start shutting it down. So they jump, you pop them, they move back, they jump again, you pop them, and you keep doing it until you get in the corner, and then they're going to try to neutral jump because they're scared, and you just smash whatever. For Laura, I just hit stand medium punch in the corner because it catches you in the air if you try to jump, and I have follow-ups after it.
Yeah, so the key to getting anti-airs in real matches is getting a feeling for when your opponent tries to jump and therefore having it muscle memory cocked and ready so that you get the timing right. If you're trying to react to a jump, even though it is technically reactable, that really narrows it makes that window you have to react, especially for slower anti-airs, too small. You can't rely on that. You really need to be reacting kind of preemptively. You kind of know that they're thinking about it. And so sometimes that means you'll whiff early on, especially because you're anticipating a jump that isn't there. But especially with light anti-airs, I mean, that's not really a big deal. So, the art of anti-airing is a thing you always just have to keep training. First, just to go to training mode, you practice getting the feel of when you have to do it to shut down common jump-ins. Then when in matches, you have to figure out how to anticipate those jump-ins a little bit because it's no longer as predictable as it is in training mode. It really is just something you have to keep doing over and over, and it can be frustrating, but once you get it, and once you have it down, it doesn't leave you again. It's like riding a bicycle. Until they add another dive kick character and you forget how that dive kick works.
Hi, I'm Bekali, Nikali's cousin, with 8 dive kicks.
Alright.
But, as I say, I feel it's time to hit up the next one.
So next one, another kind of a rarer matchup we don't see often. A Claw or Vega versus a Cammy. Both very fast characters. Vega is widely seen as one of the weaker characters right now for a lot of reasons, but he can be very annoying, especially at low ranks, because he has a lot of moves that are hard for people to understand and counter initially. So let's see how he does. I believe the submitter in this case was the Cammy, though I don't recall exactly since this was sent to us through the Discord. Ooh, they got the inputs on. Nice of them. Good, and that was an interesting meaty choice.
So we're definitely seeing a lot of jump ins from the Vega here, but I do like the media opportunities that we're seeing from Cammy.
So flying Barcelona attack, the flippy thing he's doing there. What do you do about it? You jump at it and you hit it You hit it air to air. Like every character can do that. Cammy can also try to cannon spike it because our air throw it, but because the weird angles on it, sometimes it's less reliable.
But the thing about Vega, especially like, you've got to force Vega to stay grounded.
Oh, okay. So that big mistake right there. That's like, hold on, we got to go back to that. That's like Cammy mistake, like everyone does. Mm-hmm. Doesn't confirm properly the spiral arrow. I don't know what it is, but every Cammy below like platinum does that like at least once a round. I don't know why. I feel it's one of the easiest confirms in the game. You can buffer it. You can do a lot of things to make it easier, but you really have to train yourself out of doing that because, dear Lord, it's a punishable move. I just want to note that because every time someone submits a Cammy in like silver, it shows up, and I'm just looking at it like, you can buffer that. What do I mean by a buffer? So you can confirm into spiral arrow from a lot of Cammy's low pokes. So you can do out a crouching medium kick, which you try to do there. You can do out a crouching medium punch sometimes, I think. So what you do is you hit the button and you do the quarter circle motion for spiral arrow, and you watch. If you hit the button to do the actual spiral arrow. You hit kick of some kind, and you do it. If you don't, you just don't hit anything, or you hit punch, and the quarter circle just kind of evaporates. It doesn't do anything because there's no command for that. So learn your buffers, people, because that's how you get these safe confirms easily, and you don't get this, which is about to get her hit in the face.
Not like, especially like, Cammy has really strong offensive potential, but she can't really take a hit.
Second lowest health in the game.
So we're definitely, I do like the forward momentum we're seeing here. Like,
good.
So that
good
was
catch. Good whiff punish. I don't know if that was a real whiff punish or if Subpan was just fishing. No, didn't punish that sweet. But
good anti-air.
Good confirm off of that too. So a lot of unpunished sweeps here. Maybe that Vega doesn't have a good punish for it because his sweep is the slide, which is kind of slow, but really shouldn't be throwing out those sweeps so close. Cammy sweep can be hard to punish at the tip, but like right in the middle like that, almost everybody can smack it down. You're not Karen.
Okay, so that definitely could have been. That's definitely leaving some damage on the floor, because that could have been jab, jab, spike, or cannon spike. Or no, that one's spiral arrow. I'm sorry. Cannon spike is the air drill.
So yeah, biggest hint I have to give to Subpanda here is don't throw out so many sweeps. Like, I know it's tempting, people don't punish it so good. It's long, you get that hard knockdown, it feels great. But as you move up, people are going to start punishing it more and more heavily, and it's going to be harder and harder to get anything out of it. That was a great oh, wrong.
Oh.
So that's a thing that happens a lot to camis, just for the record. Don't feel too bad, Subpanda. It's one of the trickier CAs to confirm into sometimes because of the 3 angles. Depending on what kick button you use to do her critical art, you get a different angle of attack, and that can cause it to whiff in certain situations, which is really annoying. Like, most camis I see have generally preferred to instead spend their bar on extending their combos with EX, Spiral Arrow, or Cannon Spike, because it's just more reliable. Also, having that bar on deck for EX DP Cannon Spike is super useful. Another, which is a thing I haven't seen a lot of here, mostly because this Vega is playing very poke heavy, not as much pressure, so not very many opportunities for that EX DP. Which is something Subpanda should be taking more advantage of. Cammy is a very pressury character. She can do a lot of work with that pressure. But Subpanda's ceding a lot of ground to this Vega. Just letting this Vega keep his offense going. Vega's offense has a lot of holes in it. It's one of his weaknesses. He doesn't actually have a ton of pressure before he has to back off. Cammy should be taking as much advantage of that as she can. His anti-airs are also kind of slow, and so I'm not seeing a lot of dive kicks, which is both surprising and in this case not very good. Like, there are characters you shouldn't dive kick much against, but Vega isn't one of them. Especially if he doesn't have his V trigger, which he can use as an anti-air. Like, his anti-airs are big, but they tend to require a lot of anticipation, and dive kicks can really mess them up.
They've got to be set up too.
Yeah, they're very spacing specific. Like, if the other see, there's that angle problem again.
Ooh,
solid confirm there. Big damage, brings it back to the. See, finally an air dive kick. Should be using that more often. Oh, not spaced well. So, other than the comments about not doing unsafe moves, which is just going to be kind of repetitive, I'm going to say it every time because it's going to come every time. I think the big thing here is about momentum. What would you say about that?
Yeah, it definitely feels like there was bits and pieces where punishes happened, but one of Cammy's biggest strengths is just her ability to get in and keep pressure, and we just didn't see that. There's a lot of playing around. There wasn't a whole lot of I definitely feel like there wasn't a whole lot. We saw DPs to challenge the air pressure, but we didn't really see anything that was successful or that gave this Vega any incentive to not go in the air. And every single time he had meter right in the air. Most of the time it paid off. Yeah,
so Vega's major defensive advantage is that he does move quickly. He has the fastest back walk and one of the fastest forward walks in the game. But Cammy has a very fast walk as well, and she's one of the better characters for just keeping up with him and keeping plus buttons in his face and micro walking and generally making him reluctant to throw buttons out there. And we just didn't see that from Subpanda. Subpanda was playing almost more like they were playing someone who much more prefers to be on the defensive, which, if you prefer to be on the defensive, really Cammy isn't the character for you. Flat out, she is not set up to play a slower defensive kind of play style. She can't handle it. Her health's low, and all of her advantage happens when she's on the offense.
Yeah, like Cammy has to. She's a character that once you kind of start putting her in the corner, once she starts running out of resources, like she cannot. If you beat on her and beat on her and beat on her and keep that pressure up, she can't. Outside of her V reversal, she can't really break out of it. So like you've got to lock her down, and that's kind of like I'm not gonna say that's what happened, but this Cammy definitely didn't maximize on the pressure, and so got baited into playing Vega trickery and just shut down.
So I think the overall lesson then is play to your character's strengths, whatever those are. Learn what they are, and don't let the other guy set the tone of the match. Like, you've got to struggle away from that. It can be hard. Some characters are really good at setting kind of the tenor of the match. The classic example is like Zangief, right? Or his opposite number, Dalsim, both who kind of walk into the ring and say, okay, you're playing my game now. But it doesn't matter who you are. You can wrest control. Everybody has a goal. You just have to figure out how to get there. And so, practice figuring out how to get to your character's goal. Like, even if it's just like you go into a match and say, I want to land this one combo. How do I get there? And you try to get there. That's training yourself. You've got to focus sometimes on stuff like that. Like, even if it's not the right thing to do all the time, sometimes you gotta go into a match and say, I want to try to get this combo this time. So in order to do that, I have to land this move. In order to land this move, I have to open them up. In order to open them up, I've got to do this. I got to think like this. You got to bring yourself to play your character's game, like by hook or crook, because sometimes that goes against your instincts.
Yeah. So the one thing I'll add, but especially before we kind of move to the next one, is like the one thing I will tell you, especially building on what Kizza said, please don't forget the casual match exists. Like, ranked match is where you go to take your game plan and just go in it. Casual match is a place for you to test and experiment with things in a live setting without anything on the line. And, like, one of the things that I see a lot of our newer players do and get frustrated over is they're playing, they practice a bunch of stuff, they haven't incorporated it yet, they try to do it in ranked mode and get blown up because they're not used to using it. Like, don't forget that casual matches exist as an outlet for safe training.
Absolutely. I spend a lot of time in casuals, honestly, because that's where, if I start losing in ranked, I'm like, something's not right in my game plan. So I go to training mode, I figure some stuff out, and I go into casuals. I keep playing casuals so I'm consistently winning with whatever I've worked on, and then I go back into ranked. Like,
that's a hierarchy to do it. Learn it in the lab, test it in casuals, take it to ranked when you're ready to roll.
And that way, yeah, you learn how your stuff works in an environment where you're not feeling like, if I screw this up, I'm going to lose something that's valuable to me in any way.
Yeah.
Other than your pride sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, we all got to eat that L.
Absolutely. So next one for tonight is a very interesting one. Two characters we don't see very often. One because he's new and one because he's just not played as much. Ed versus Ziku. Though it isn't bronze, so it's going to be hard to say exactly how Ziku performs in reality, but let's see how it goes.
I think I've played enough Zekus to kind of get an idea. Oh man, so one thing we're definitely seeing here is there's just a lot of air.
This was submitted to us by Sumo Sloth, who I believe said he got his butt whooped and was curious what he could do better against this new character.
So one thing I can definitely say is like this Zeku is all over the air, and Ed is an anti-air machine. Like Psycho Upper is really good. The upward kicks are incredibly good, and you get a follow up after it. That's the biggest thing I'm seeing here is like just this guy is in the air, and you are not capitalizing on.
The other thing to note is that old Zeku kind of is designed to be a little bit slower and have longer range, and Ed is a very close-in character, but the Zeku is giving Ed this close-in advantage, and then Ed isn't capitalizing on it.
Yeah, there's definitely that. We've got this Ed is actually one of the more mobile characters in the game. Like, he's got the ability to drag folk to him. His dash and backdash are insane. Like, he's got options to kind of move and get in and close that distance.
Okay, so
It's a good take throw.
see the throw there. Like Ed can dash up after that, and be ready to do something. But I feel like Sumo is playing a little too cautiously, possibly because he's unfamiliar with Zeku. Young Zeku can contest up close. Old Zeku really can't as much. All of his moves are very slow.
Yeah, there's that, and like the other thing too is like especially after Ed's big throw, if he can get in, like he can throw out the standing medium punch, which is +3 on block, which is just insane. Like it's a 6-frame move that's +3 on block. Like his standing medium punch is good.
Yeah, so like Sumo Sloth's defense has been pretty decent. Like where he's really failing is he's not getting his offense going.
He's really not, and that was a good orb confirm. He messed it up at the end of it, but the idea was there, and those setups are
good to get used to the XDP there.
That psycho upper making fools of us all.
Yeah, like he's using jump. So Sumo Sloth is jumping a lot to try to get in. When Ed has all sorts of ways to close gaps, like charging standing heavy punch, or yanking them over to himself, or just letting the Zeku, like what the heck just happened there, come close. And peppering him with psycho orbs for a while. Ed should be controlling the spacing of the match during this matchup. Like he's got all the tools to do it.
Yeah, like he has incredible tools to. He's got incredible tools to shut down the air. He's got incredible tools to get him in. This is a little weird because like Zeku is just throwing DPs out like they're candy.
He's taking a lot of throws too, which means that one, it's predictable, and two, you have to understand like when you tech a throw, you reset to neutral, and in this situation, up close after a throw tech in neutral, Ed has the advantage unless it's young Zeku, which this guy just really didn't use.
That's the thing I see a lot with this character, especially like having played Diamond and Platinum level Zeku. Like a lot of people really like don't switch to young Zeku until they're at disadvantage.
Yeah, comment from the chat, he's jumping too much. Absolutely. I didn't want to harp on that, but everybody in this match is jumping too damn much.
Yeah, we're, like, it's especially kind of rough since Ed has the ability to shut this down. Like, that, he has so many really powerful anti-airs, and he gets so many follow-ups off of them, too.
Okay, there we go. That's the offense we want to see.
Yeah,
okay, so now he's cornered,
there we go.
but tries for a neutral jump punish, like bait, I guess. Not sure what he was going for there. Like that is not a situation where you can safe jump. Like that was not a hard enough knockdown.
The other thing here I'll note that we're seeing is like, I'm not seeing any attempts to crush counter some of these egregious DPs.
Yeah, so now we got young Zeku who can get up close and can aggress pretty harshly, and here we go. So I would say, based on his behavior, this Zeku is probably a little bit of a smurf. Like,
yeah.
In terms of how good he is with this character at this level. But even so, he's doing so many. Oh, yeah, there we go. Good punish. Should be able to kill him here.
Ugh, I'm so happy with how that ended. That was the adaptation that I needed to see.
Exactly, yeah. That's what we've been talking about up until now, really. Like, Ed gets a lot of damage off anti-airs if he can land them, and, up until that point, he hadn't gotten one, and that was the clutch moment he needed. The question is if he can keep that up, because a lot of times, people, breathe out after that clutch moment, they don't get it again. It's, they let all that tension out of them.
So that's definitely a situation where, like, these anti-airs, Ed has answers to both the ranges he just got jumped in on. So, like, right here, that could have been rising kicks. That could have been psycho upper.
Yeah.
Ooh!
Good, there we go. So,
yeah.
the Zeku is definitely smurfing, so he's jumping because Sumo Sloth isn't stopping him. Sumo Sloth is probably jumping because he doesn't know how else to get in, but you can see now he's not jumping anymore. He's starting to think about it. He's playing a much safer, smarter game. And that's a good thing. Even if you lose, recognizing when you started playing smarter is important because it means that next time you start in that state and maybe you don't lose.
Yeah, the Zeku is definitely a Smurf.
Yeah, you can't. And see, Sumo Sloth started jumping again. He got shut down for it. You got to control that tendency. Tons of people panic and jump, right? It's understandable. It's a thing that works at low levels, and when you get higher and you start, panicking, it's the first thing you default to. But you've got to train yourself out of it because it's bad for you. I still sometimes do it, and I feel bad for every time I do it because I should have known better.
Yeah, he's definitely panic jumping.
There's intelligent jumping and then there's panic jumping. That's panic jumping. All these jumps trying to get out of this corner, trying to get in, get some damage in, panic. That's what panic jumping looks like.
So we saw a little bit of a drop here, but the thing about Ed is Ed definitely has really good pressure.
Oh, excellent use of the V trigger there.
Oh, so good.
Not a good punish from the Zeku though. Probably just slowing the reaction there.
Yeah.
Oop, a little bit of lag there.
Oh, I'm so happy. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that's what you got to do with Ed. You got to get that pressure on. Ed's a brawler. You got to let him punish that.
So okay, I was about to say. So that definitely that missed punish could have been kill, but he sealed the deal.
But you can see that's why I wanted to go through sets. He won that one because he changed his strategy a little bit. It wasn't perfect. He was still doing a lot of panic jumping, but he was getting much better punishes on the anti-airs. He was starting to get real combos in, set up some of his own pressure, really start to get in there. So let's go into this third game and see how this changes again, because both these guys should be thinking, okay, what worked, what didn't.
I'm also going to throw this out there. This Zeku Smurf is actually really disappointing.
Yeah, for a Smurf, he's got to be smurfing at most down from gold because he's not very good.
Yeah, no, he's trying to take this character in and just do dumb nonsense.
He's relying on that jump in, which is something, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Follow up is
see, there we go again. He's
oh man, please.
There's the adaptation, guys. That's what you want to do.
I'm rooting so hard for you, Sumo Sloth. I really am.
So now every time the Zeku jumps, he's getting those kicks to his face, and if you notice, he stopped jumping. That's what you've got to do to those people. He's switched to Young Zeku and he's trying for standard ground pressure instead. Both sides have adapted. The air game, Ed is shutting down the air game, and so our Smurf here is trying to set up a different pressure game. So let's see if Sumo Sloth can then adapt to. Oh, he gets the jump in. Oh, misses the follow up.
So I don't know if he just didn't want to spend the meter. Actually, no, that's great. That's beautiful. Perfect. I was going to say, he definitely could have gotten the kill if he'd spent for critical art. And it's the first game of the set, so he definitely could have and not been in too bad of a state.
Yeah, that's a situation where you often want to, just to confirm the kill, as it were.
So at this point,
okay, see now he's just, come on, man. You got hit by 5 times. Stop it.
You lost half your meter to that, or half your health to that scramble.
And some meter. And again, he's getting clipped by it. So Ed's fireball moves him forward, and the Zeku is just throwing that out there and catching him. You can't.
Ed's fireball is also slow as all get out. He's starting to change his timing up a little bit, but he needs to just go in.
Yeah, he needs to. He's using the fireball bait, right? But he's not getting anything out of it. What you're supposed to, you bait that fireball, let him throw that big swing out there, and then catch him with V skill or just move in. There we go. See, that's what you're supposed to do. misses the conversion, dies for it, but that's how you're supposed to work that. Bait him into doing that big move, and that's when you jump. That's intelligent jumping.
Yeah.
And so now the Zeku's realized, oh, I can just do that. But now Sumo has again changed tactics. He's just moving in again. Probably shouldn't be jumping so much, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, he had a little bit of that DP, but he didn't eat the full thing. But
He shouldn't be jumping to get in like he is, even though it is kind of working because the other guy isn't really doing anything about it.
So at this point, I was gonna say at this point, like Sloth just needs to wait for that punish because at this point, if he gets the hit, he can do supering. Most like he may not kill, but he'll be at a point where the next mistake is death.
Yeah, so again, adaptation. The Fireball War didn't work, and so now Sumo Sloth is going in, which is the right thing to do. Again, he just needs to be smarter about it.
Yeah, these jump ins are getting it. Ooh!
Good throw out of that. But again, probably should have forward thrown there and kept him in the corner, because now he has to approach again.
So he's trying to go for it again.
Stop jumping! I can't believe that worked. Oh, drop the confirm. The punish is going to kill. Ari can screw it up again. That should have killed him. Both these guys should be dead about 4 times here. They both screwed up a lot.
I'm
Oh, that's amazing!
Oh, I'm in love. I'm in love.
Oh, that was superb. Thank you, Sumo Sloth, for that. That's the best thing I've seen all week in Street Fighter V.
Oh man. Shoutouts to Killer Kai in '96 for being the worst Smurf I have ever seen.
So, the conclusions from that. We saw a lot of adaptation. That's a good thing. Sumo Sloth, you tried to change your tactics, maybe a little more slowly than you really should have. Like, there's periods where you're just doing the same thing stubbornly for 30 seconds or so when you could have... It failed twice. That's when you just say, that's not working. Let's move on to the next try. But, like, your thought process, we could see it, and it was the right thought process eventually. It just took you a little while. You started thinking and going, okay, so now I gotta... He's spamming me out of Fireball, so now I gotta start trying to approach. I don't agree with how you tried to approach. You should try to learn how to approach from the ground rather than the air. But it's the right move to try to approach in that situation, because that changes the game. And, then the Zeku switches to this close-up pressure, and then you start trying to, to punish that. You're thinking the right way. Now you just got to start trying to actually do it.
I'm so happy about that entire set. I'm so glad that's the set we got for our big long set.
Yeah, like, this is a pretty good summation of where they should end up after a set like that. Like, both guys on the ground, because both those guys were abusing not cheap but gimmicky ways of trying to approach a strategy. They both were thinking about the right strategy, but either they didn't know or didn't feel like trying to execute it in a way that is kind of, I guess the best way to put it is skillful, right? There's unskillful and there's skillful ways of executing strategies. When you got to approach somebody, you can do it by jumping over and over until you get through their anti-airs, or you can try to bait something or move in, bulldog it, play it smart. When you're having a Fireball War, you can keep clashing and getting knocked around, or you can try to bait or counter the fireball using some other tactic. You have to have both elements. Knowing what you're doing and not being able to do it is just as bad as not knowing what you're doing.
So, you think we got time for one more?
I think we got time for one more. It's going to be the one you sent me. There's the last one I had for today. We probably won't get to. Had a big long message attached to it, so I kind of want to give that its own time, especially since he sent me 4 solid matches, all of which looked good. So maybe we'll get to that next week.
Yeah, next week. For anyone in the chat or anyone watching, if anyone has like a big long set that they want some critique on, maybe like a first to five. Send it in and we'll take a look at it. I feel like having two big back-to-back sets for next week would be a good idea.
All right, so Mika versus Laura. You're the Laura main here. What do you think of this matchup?
So myself and Kenstar Requiem, local Diamond Mika player, have gone back and forth on how we think this matchup plays out. So I definitely think that Laura is. I do think that Laura is in the advantage on this one. Mika's corner pressure is definitely better of the two, but Laura has the ability to cover more areas of the screen, and Mika doesn't have as many tools to deal with the blender as in the same way that Mika does.
I would tend to give it to Laura too, especially because Mika often will have trouble getting through like charged fireballs and the like. She doesn't have a lot of easy ways to power through like a 3-hit fireball because it'll knock her out of a lot of her armor and trick moves. But let's see how this is, because this, you can see there's a rank disparity here too. This is theoretically a much better Laura than much better Mika than the Laura. Yeah.
I picked this set for a reason.
Alright, so we got inputs too, that's nice. So both guys starting off nice and cautious, feeling each other out. Good to do for grapplers. When grapplers get up close to each other, things get explosive real quick.
So we're seeing some really good spacing attempts. The thing I'll definitely say here is that that crouching forward, we could have had a follow up into. We definitely could have had a follow up into light or medium bolt tackle.
Good escape from the corner there. Like, big compliments on staying calm and just getting out of there. A lot of people, up to including me in this, just get panicked sometimes when Mika's guys on the corner. It's like, oops, I did exactly the wrong thing. Ooh, good setup.
Yeah, definitely excellent light bolt charge into grab. I don't think this Mika knows how to deal with some of the lore stuff because we didn't see any attempts to jump or jab out of it. But
the Mika blender begins though. One more mix up. Oh, whiffs it.
So definitely, that move is Laura's EX bolt tackle. It does have a hit of armor, so it's not the best wake up button, but you can use it. Really shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Mika was trying to do there. I don't think there's any good setups really for using uncharged dive kick in the corner. I mean, jump kick, whatever.
So definitely, one thing I'm seeing good here is those crouching medium punches. Those are both very plus on block, and can be confirmed into.
Good use of the fireball. Again, Mika has very few options for dealing with that fireball, so it's very scary. You can use it to set up a lot of meanness.
We're definitely seeing a little bit too many jumps here.
But she's not, I mean, technically yes, but she's not really getting punished for them, so. Ooh, big mistake. Shouldn't have thrown that out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if Nadeshko gets popped, you've got to respect it.
Like, so you can, for the record, for those of you watching, you can recognize delayed versus undelayed Nadeshko by how long Mika takes during the freeze. If she just, pauses and just raises one arm, that's fast Nadeshko. If she holds on a while and raises both arms, that's slow Nadeshko. So keep that in mind when you're respecting Mika and Nadeshko. Shouldn't have
that was
herself.
A good meaty setup.
Yeah, it was a good setup, but I wouldn't have used that particular one there because of the cornering self. Good use of the throw to evade. So Brimstone, that one is Mika's throw that can be chained. So good jump out and a very excellent punish on that.
Yes.
So, as a note, Mika has... This is a thing that people run into with Mika all the time, so I want to bring it up. Mika has 2 ground command throws. There's Brimstone, which is one where he raises you over her head and then slams you to the ground. And there's Rainbow Typhoon, which is her giant swing where she spins you around and throws you away. After Brimstone, if she dashes up, it's like an SPD. She's +2. So it's a mix-up. After Rainbow Typhoon, unless she's throwing you directly into the corner, she is massively minus. You can just stand up and throw anything out, and she can't come close.
So one thing I'll definitely note here, especially as the Laura expert, one thing I'm definitely not seeing is there's a lot of uncapitalized jump ins. Laura has two of the better anti-air options in the game with standing medium punch and heavy bolt tackle. So standing medium punch, if you catch them with it, Laura can dash under and immediately start blender setups or grab. For standing or for heavy bolt tackle, Laura has meaties off that at most ranges, depending, and on quick or back rise. So I definitely think that we need to see a little bit more of that, especially because like the ranges this Mika are jumping in, and especially like I didn't see a single body slam either. You know, these are free opportunities for damage and setups.
Yeah. The other thing is, yeah, definitely this Laura jumped a lot, but this Mika wasn't really intercepting them. Like even those jump backs, a lot of the time, if Laura jumps back from close, Mika can do wingless airplane and catch it. And if her reactions are on point, and so Laura just kept doing it, using jump backs to get away from grab mix-ups and otherwise gain distance to start the fireball harassment. And you've got to do something about that as a grappler. Like, you cannot let people just jump back from you without at least using the opportunity to advance on them again and start trying to corner them. A lot of this time, this Mika was kind of just literally throwing Laura around the room and not focusing on like spacing and positioning and letting her jump away. You've got to hit that pressure on for all grapplers, but especially for Mika, because Mika has nothing outside that very close range.
The other thing I was going to note, like we did see some dash up Brimstone. I'm pretty sure you can, especially since Laura has a 3-frame jab. I'm pretty sure you can jab out of that.
You can jab out of it on the initial dash in, the first time you see it. After that, it's after you get hit by the first Brimstone, it's just like being in an SPD loop. You have to guess.
Okay.
You can even because Brimstone leaves her plus 20 and her dash is like 18, so she's plus 2 on dash up after Brimstone.
Gotcha.
So you can, if she starts trying to dash at you, you have to stop her. Mika wants to be in your face, and you keeping her just a little bit further out works great. Though again, grappler, it often turns into a nasty brawl. But once you get hit by that first Brimstone, you've got to make the guess, just like the SPD. Doesn't do as much damage as the SPD, and the real danger of it is you only have to get hit by it like twice, and then you're in the corner, and then you're really in trouble.
But outside of that, we saw a lot of scramble situations, especially on both sides. Like none of that match was as clean as it could have been. Especially on, like, we saw a little bit too much air game from two characters who excel at ground fighting. So that's definitely one thing to take home from this. Is just we got to see less of the panic jumps, and we got to see less of the jump backs, because while this opponent may not respect you on it, someone, especially like I've actually worked with Hideo a bunch of times. Like when he was first picking up Laura, I helped him out with that decision. So like a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing is stuff that it's just stuff that could be done better. And like, especially as a ground fighter, especially as stuff that I've caught him with myself, like a lot of those jabs and stuff, or a lot of those jump backs are just unsafe, and a better player is going to catch you with it. And a better player is going to shut that down.
And often, like, the ways you can shut that down, put them at advantage again, and then you have to guess again. Like, for example, if you do that against me as Zangief, and I jump up and I air SPD you, now you're back in the mix-up again. So you've got to balance the attempt to get away, usually from a mix-up or other situation, with the risk of getting caught and putting right back in it.
Like that's the rough thing about grappling matches. Just like, especially the grappler mirror is like it's tricky, and like it's played a lot differently than a lot of matches it's played differently from a lot of matches in this game in general. So it's just kind of a constant battle of this is what works, this is what doesn't. It's tricky and it takes time to learn. But once you have an understanding of it, it just makes a world of difference.
All right. I think that's everything we have for tonight, ladies and gentlemen watching us. Do you have any final comments for the evening, Seth?
So a lot of the matches we watched this week were definitely lower ranked matches. So you can see a byline between a lot of the things that we said. For all of my people watching, especially for some of my lower players, like learning not to jump as much and learning to control the ground will take you incredibly far in this game. And especially at the ranks that you all are at, tapping these people out of repeated anti-airs just will take you miles away. So especially with Bakari, 2 or 3 anti-airs, especially with Akuma, could have been the match. So a lot of the things I want to see, and especially the things that I recommend for some of our newer players, are just go in the lab, practice anti-airing, notice the ranges that people do jump on you, and go into casual matches and test those ranges. Look and see who jumps and who goes where. And lastly, make sure your punishes are on point and make sure your hit confirms are on point. There is an app developed by another Street Fighter player. There's V-Frames and there's FA Tool. Both are really good frame data utilities. And just learning frame data takes a lot of time. I've been playing this game for 2 years straight and I don't know all my stuff. Certainly not because it keeps changing, but having an idea of 1 or 2 moves that your opponent can do that are unsafe, and just knowing just that much in that and looking for that will drastically help you improve.
Absolutely.
So a lot of the... Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. And kind of my comment on that is, going back to what I said in one of the earlier matches, the trick, there's 2 elements to the game. There's having a plan and then there's trying to execute it. And so what Seth just talked about is the trying to execute it part, which initially it's much harder and it's much more important to get yourself able to execute it. And then once you've kind of got the building blocks, you have to start trying to play the plan. Have a plan and then play to it.
So in this situation, I can just give you an example of my personal plan when I play. So when I play, and I play Laura, I play the same character that we saw in the final set. My goal is to push you into the corner, which is very similar for grapplers. So I'm going to be doing jabs into light bolt tackle, which pushes you back. I'm going to be doing crouching medium punch, medium bolt tackle to push people back. I'm going to walk you into the corner, and I'm going to anti-air you if you jump. Because the moment I get you in the corner and I have meter, you have to play my game, and my game is a guessing game where it's slanted in my favor. So at that point, having an idea of what your character does and building a plan not only around what your character does, but how you want to play that character is really important.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody coming out tonight. As always, it's always nice to see everybody talking in chat and discussing what we're looking at. So please remember, we'll be back next Friday at 9 p.m. EST, 6 p.m. PST. And it will be PST and EST next week. It is fall back coming up. Don't forget about that. I forgot about spring ahead this year and almost was late to work. So we will see you again. Send us your replays. Again, we're due to community demand, we're going to start trying to focus on these longer sets and see how people adapt and change. And we saw a great example with sumo this week, and we're hoping to see a lot more of that because it gives us a better idea of how people think. And that's a big part of fighting games, not just what buttons they hit or when, but how they're thinking about it and how you can think better to win. So I'm KZA. With me tonight, as always, is Seth Series, and Thank you very much for watching.
We appreciate y'all sending your stuff in, and like always, what's our email, Kizza?
NCH beginner breakdowns at gmail.com.
Also, both of us are coaches. Kizza is the one with access to the email, but if you have replays that you want to send in, if you see me, feel free to DM them to me. Hideo here at the final set DM'd me his. I went on my PS4, recorded it through the replay feature, put it up here, and that's how I got here. So if you have replays or anything, don't hesitate to send them to me. I will do my best to get them in and get them recorded and uploaded.
And we take any replay, we say beginner breakdowns, but it doesn't matter if you're in Platinum or, hell, Masters. If you send them in, we'll take a look at them and we'll use them to illustrate principles because, low B matches show some basics, but then, if you want to show us your gold, your platinum, your diamond rank ones, we can certainly go through those as well and show what those let us do is also show some better decisions, honestly, because it's hard to do that sometimes with lower ranked matches.
It also gives us the ability to kind of talk about the meat of Street Fighter. So when we talk about this tonight, we talk about anti-airs and fireballs and all this general stuff, that's the foundation you have to build before you can actually start to play Street Fighter. It's more I'd say it probably starts the most once you hit Platinum and up. But once you start getting into the mental game of Street Fighter, and once we can actually start talking about that and breaking that down, that's when this game gets fascinating. So, like I said, or like Kizza said, don't let the beginner part, discourage you. Send your stuff in. We'll look at it. We'll talk about it.
In a way, aren't we all just beginners all the time? There's no such thing as the end of the road. And with that,
my cup is always empty.
All right. With that, have a good evening, everybody.
Have a good night, y'all.